This podcast is authorized and paid for by Friends of Gentner Drummond 2026.
Welcome to another episode of Bold Ideas with Gentner Drummond. Today, we're digging into three big questions that are at the center of the news right now and issues that really affect the state of Oklahoma. And we're fortunate to have Attorney General Gentner Drummond with us. General Drummond, let's go ahead and get started with the first question. Last week, an Afghan national ambushed two National Guardsmen in Washington, D.C. 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom has died, and Andrew Wolf remains in serious condition. The suspect reportedly entered the country through Operation Allies Welcome, Joe Biden's program. And we've also learned of a separate case in Texas that has been thwarted where an Afghan national was plotting a bomb attack in Fort Worth. So you've publicly condemned Operation Allies Welcome in the past. You've even criticized Governor Stitt for cooperating with the Biden administration on bringing Afghan nationals to the state of Oklahoma. You took some heat from people for taking that stance. But if you were governor today, what specifically would you be doing to address this kind of threat and make sure that these kind of horrific attacks don't happen in our state?
First and foremost, it was a mistake to permit the Afghani refugees to come into our state. This was a predictable outcome. This is not to say that all Afghani refugees are bad, but these were militants who chose a side. They were not for the Taliban. They chose the lesser of two evils in their minds, and they are not to be trusted. They should have been vetted and need to be vetted now. And those that have integrated into our communities and are adopting the American way of life, teaching their children English, great. Welcome to America. But so many are not. And they are isolationists. They have maintained their militancy, and it is not beyond the realm of expectation that there would be certain Afghanis that would turn on America. And we've seen it in the past, and frankly, Matt, we will see it in the future.
Yeah, do you agree with President Trump then that this entire program needs to be relooked at and that the people that came here from Afghanistan need to be revetted?
Right. What we should have done on the front end is those that came in and passed an initial screening, fine, but they should be treated as though they're on probation, checking in on a monthly basis, and giving America law enforcement an opportunity to measure the authenticity and commitment of these refugees to the American way of life. We can juxtapose that with the Cuban refugees that came in the 60s. I mean, they are great members of society. Those that broke the law were deported. Similarly with the boat people of Vietnam. They were vetted and they were integrated. Not so with the Afghani.
All right, next question. At the University of Oklahoma, this happened over Thanksgiving week. The news broke of this. There was a transgender instructor that reportedly failed a student for citing the Bible as a source in a writing assignment given in class. It looks like OU leadership has restored the student's grade, and they've removed that instructor from this class. But a lot of people are asking, how on earth in the ruby red state of Oklahoma does something like this happen? And as governor, what would you do to protect free speech and religious liberty on our college campuses and to make sure this kind of incident doesn't happen again?
This result is predictable. We have had generation after generation of inculcating a liberal philosophy inside of our colleges and universities. In Oklahoma, we can do better. Our universities need to make sure that the student teachers and the teachers' assistants that are in the classroom reflect our values and that they don't have a personal agenda, that they're violating the students' free expression rights, as was the case at OU.
As governor, what else do you think needs to be accomplished to make sure that we don't dive into these problems again for students?
Right. If every Oklahoman just applied common sense and the core values of our state, would be fine. What we find is we have rules that are in response to a bad act. And people go, oh my goodness, we have so many laws, so many rules. Well, it's to identify and abate a bad action. And more likely than not, we will have legislation that addresses this.
All right. The last question we want to tackle today. Recently, your opponents appeared at the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association Forum. It was a candidate forum for any candidate running for governor. You had a previous event that prohibited you from being there. But I've watched this entire forum, and it was nearly 2 hours long, and I saw zero disagreement between the candidates that were on that stage. Now, I get it. Everybody that was there is a Republican, and you're a Republican, so naturally there's going to be a lot of shared philosophy and a lot of shared values. I was finding myself saying, shouldn't there be some contrast between these candidates that are on the stage? And I really didn't see any clear contrast. And you've watched some of that forum, or maybe the whole forum. I'm not sure if you watched the whole thing, but if you had been on that stage that night, where would you have broken with your Republican opponents? And what are the biggest substantial differences between you and the other guys that were on that stage?
As an initial matter, one, I'm the full-time attorney general for the state of Oklahoma. So I don't have the leisure and luxury of being available at all times for every single event. That particular event, I'd reached out to Don Spencer and informed him, I've made a commitment 6 months ago to Altus, and I was down there for an overnight visit and a remarkable time in Southwest Oklahoma. But I respect OK2A and its memberships and its leadership. But I'm not going to be a governor that agrees with everyone. You can't do that. We do have disagreements. For example, every candidate except me is adverse to flock cameras. Well, unfortunately, none of them understand criminal justice and the rule of law. The flock cameras provide a great tool and resource for law enforcement. My point is, if you're inclined to break the law, absolutely, you should be against flock cameras. But if you are a law-abiding, God-fearing Oklahoma, they are in your best interest. We have had occasion after occasion. I'll give you an example. We were monitoring a known distribution site of illegal marijuana. We saw 3 Lime bikes, scooters, pull up. We have the time, the location. We subpoenaed Lime, and we found out exactly who the 3 credit cards were registered to. We found out their addresses, their phone numbers, all the information we needed. The next morning, we arrested all 3. We had them on camera. We had their identification. We knew where there was. Flock camera abated the processing of thousands of dollars, if not scores of thousands of dollars, of illicit marijuana and fentanyl.
That's incredible. Well, what else? Do you have any other disagreements with them? One area where they all agreed was that we should get rid of turnpikes in Oklahoma. I found that to be...
Bill, I think where the stark difference between the other candidates and me is they all want to raise taxes. Because if you do away with OTA, you have transferred a $3 billion responsibility on the backs of taxpayers. So advocates, you want to raise taxes? Apparently they do. I see a role for OTA. One, it has a $3 billion operational obligation that OTA is funding with its tolls. 2, it provides Oklahoma with an excellent highways and byways and bridges. 3, presently, our Oklahoma Department of Transportation is under the federal auspices, the requirements of the federal government. So when we have a liberal administration, ODOT has to comply with liberal policies. OTA is not. OTA answers to the state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma is bright red, ruby red, and we have conservative values. We award the contract to the very best qualified at the lowest price. Not so with ODOT.
I read recently, too, 50% of the tolls are paid by residents that do not live in the state of Oklahoma. So I like that they're funding our highways by gas taxes or less.
Yeah, we got Texas, Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, New Mexico, Colorado paying 50% of our toll roads. Thank you. Yeah. Continue to visit Oklahoma.
Again, now, there was another issue that was brought up that I am not an attorney. Don't claim to be one or understand everything that goes on in a courtroom. But there was a big question from OK2A that should we have cameras in every single courtroom? And all the candidates just said yes. And when I asked you about that, you said you had a difference of opinion. I would be curious, why would you not want a camera in every courtroom?
None of the candidates running for governor have ever really been in a courtroom. I'm a litigator of 30 years. I'm a prosecutor. We drive bad behavior out of the state of Oklahoma. You put a camera on a fact witness, he or she clams up. Courtrooms are open to any public person who wants to come in. Come in, be quiet, take notes, whatever you want to do. You put a camera in the face of a witness, the testimony is devalued. It's altered 100% of the time. If we want rule of law, if we want bad people prosecuted and good people protected, keep the cameras out of the courtroom.
Interesting. Well, Gentner Drummond, I appreciate taking the time. I hope we can do more of these with this format and get this message out to the people of Oklahoma. And hope you have a great day. Look forward to seeing you out on the campaign trail.
Matt, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you.
This podcast is authorized and paid for by Friends of Gentner Drummond 2026.